So Chandelure in Pokemon Sword and Shield has really good stats overall, other than its health and attack. Its attack's kind of low, but its health is good enough. The health is good enough at 60 with 90 in both defenses. 85 speed's pretty good. It puts you in a weird speed tier where you outspeed tanks, but you don't outspeed sweepers. But it's fast enough to still work with, especially with like a Scar, for example, or a speed boost, or if you give it speed like +1 or +2. And 145 special attack's really good from Chandelure. Like, that's really high special attack. So it's going to do a lot of damage. And its abilities are Flash Fire, Flame Body, and Infiltrator. They're actually pretty good abilities, like, all in all. Like, Flash Fire has its uses, especially against Dynamax, or if you have something like a Ferrothorn on your team, you can really make use of it. Or a fire, like, or if your opponent just has a fire type, and you know they're going to use a fire move, that's a free, pretty much 1.5. Pretty much a free 50% damage on your next fire type move, on your fire type moves in general. Flame Body is also really good. It's probably the weakest of its abilities just because it's a 30% chance and it has to be a contact move. So unless you're really Dynamax, you won't have many chances to proc Flame Body. But it's not terrible as an ability because that burn can really shut down a physical attacker. And Infiltrator is my favorite of the abilities because all of its abilities are situational, Chandelure's. But of all of them, Infiltrator has this cool thing where it ignores Reflect, Light Screen, Aurora Veil, it ignores all those, so you do full damage, and it ignores subs. So, for example, if you're using Will-O-Wisp, and like if they think you're going to use Will-O-Wisp so they sub, and you have Infiltrator, you'll go right through it and you'll still hurt them through sub. Or if they think they're safe behind sub and they're setting up, Chandelure can just go right through it. Same with Reflect, Light Screen, Aurora Veil. Chandelure's really good against Aurora Veil too, because pretty much every Aurora Veil Pokemon is going to be ice, so you can really make use of that with Chandelure and just hit it super effective. And Ghost Fire, its typing, it's actually a pretty good typing overall, especially when you have these defenses. Like, you're not the tankiest thing, but you have some bulk to you. And only being weak to Ground, Rock, Ghost, Water, and Dark is not bad, especially with your 2 immunities and all these resistances. It's pretty good overall. You just have to kind of watch out for Ground. Pretty much you have to just watch out for these things. For the most part, Earthquake. It's weird Chandelure doesn't get Levitate too. I wish it would have got Levitate. But you can kind of watch out because you know there's only a few rock moves: Rock Slide, Stone Edge. Same with Earthquake. It'll probably be Earthquake, or really Earthquake is the only ground move to watch out for. Ghost, like, you can kind of predict if your opponent will have these moves or not, so you can kind of watch out for them a little bit. But one of my favorite ways to run Chandelure is just Choice Scarf, Infiltrator. And for the most part, the ability is up to you. For this one, I like Infiltrator just for if they try to set up Reflect, Light Screen, or Aurora Veil. I just like that. So Infiltrator is my favorite. But if you can play around with Flash Fire and you can get that, Flash Fire is really good. Like, Flash Fire is better than Infiltrator if you can get it to proc, but you just might run against an opponent that... Like, that's why I said they're situational, because you might run against an opponent who doesn't have a fire type move, or an opponent who just doesn't have any of these things. So for the most part, it's up to you between Flash Fire and Infiltrator. I think those are the best two. It's just whatever you think you'll run into a little bit more. But pretty much the plan with this is modest, max special attack, max speed, and you want to outspeed and pretty much one-shot everything. For this one, it's up to you what fire move you want to have between Heat Wave, which has slightly more damage but less accuracy, or Flamethrower, which is less power but 100% accuracy. I wouldn't run Overheat unless you're planning of using it once and switching out. And same with Fire Blast. Fire Blast just has low accuracy, so I don't really trust that. Well, but it only has 5 less accuracy than Heat Wave, but that's an extra chance. So, like, between the fire move, you have some options. Shadow Ball for stab. And this last move, I like Energy Ball for grass. I like Energy Ball for water and rock types because those are 2 of your weaknesses. You hit Ghost super effective with your Ghost. You hit ground, rock, and water super effective with grass. You just have to worry about for dark. But I like Energy Ball for that. You could also run maybe Psychic. If you want more damage than Energy Ball, Psychic. But I wouldn't really run Dark Balls because Ghost and Dark pretty much have the same things. So you're not adding very much. So between Psychic and Energy Ball, and always if you're on a Sun team or Chandelure's under the Sun or whatever, Solar Beam's always an option. Always is better than Energy Ball. But you run into an issue with Solar Beam, for example, while Scarfed. If you're under the Sun, you use Solar Beam, and then they switch in something like a Pelipper that brings Drought. You'd have to switch out because Solar Beam now won't do anything. It'll be a problem. But again, that last move's up to you. But you could also if you run Flame Body, if you want to bank on that, you could replace Shadow Ball with Hex. But again, that's high risk, high reward. And what you want to do though is if there's something you can't super effective or something you can effectively shut down with a trick, if something you can essentially shut down by giving it a scarf, you just go ahead and trick. Or you come in on something that you already know what move, like if it's already forced into a move, or if it's a 2v1 and like you know you're gonna use a move that resists your last hook, you might just trick them into it. You can do things like that with a trick, and it's always really good to have trick on Choice Scarf, especially if you outspeed and trick them into like a status move. But another thing you can do with Chandelure is minimize and just pretty much be untouchable. Literally, like they won't be able to hit you. It sucks Chandelure isn't a nasty plot because I would like nasty plot in this last slot, but pretty much minimize, flamethrower, shadow ball, do stab. This one again, it's up to you with the ability. Infiltrator is really good on this one too because it, in case you minimize and they use a substitute, for example, Infiltrator is really good. Flash fire is whatever. Flash fire, I think it will still activate even if the move would technically miss. But I like Citrus Berry on this one just because in case you minimize twice and they hit you with like a super effective hit, or they crit, or they hit you like when you first minimize they hit you, or if they outspeed, something like that, you don't want to get blown up. You don't want to take a lot of damage early and then get KO'd. You do have to watch out for this one though with Dynamax, so I would recommend if you use this one to do this after they've already used their Dynamax. Otherwise they'll just come in Dynamax and then take you out, and you just wasted all those minimizes. And then the last slot, I like Pain Split just in case you take a lot of damage setting up the minimize, and then they come in and then you Pain Split them down. You Pain Split, you get Pain Split, and you get a lot of your health back while taking away some of theirs. You could also run something like a Calm Mind or I like Calm Mind too to raise your stats and try to build up while minimizing. Curse, not Curse. Where is it? Memento is not. Haze is also. Haze is not a good option. Will-O-Wisp is an option if you want to burn them too, but Acid Armor, I would not. You don't really need Acid Armor. Confuse Ray is also an option if you want to just be that person and confuse them too. But another option that's really good in this last slot, if you're not worried about the Pain Split, is Clear Smoke, just in case they try to set up. And like, cause you don't want to get in a spot where you're minimizing and they're just setting up and then they Dynamax and just KO you, and then they have all those free stats pretty much. So Clear Smog is also really good to take away stats, or if they're getting really tanky and you have no way to counter that, Clear Smog is also really good. Because like you could set up minimize and they get set up maybe Amnesia, so you have to be careful of that. Also on this one, you could run Nightshade depending on the levels. If it's level 50, I don't really like Nightshade at level 50, but at 100, Nightshade's pretty good. And it's just free damage at that point. But another way to run Chandelure is the Will-O-Wisp Hex and just have that be your 1-2 punch. And I like the timid nature so you can outspeed physical attackers and cut their attack in half before they have a chance to attack. The thing about Will-O-Wisp though is 85 accuracy is not the greatest. Also, Flash Fire works on Will-O-Wisp too. So if you expect a Will-O-Wisp on another physical attacker and you have Flash Fire, you can just switch it in. But I like Infiltrator because of substitutes, for example. I like it just for substitutes in this set. You're not really worried that much about damage on this one. Well, this one still, again, it's up to you. I just like this one for the ignoring subs. Citrus Berry, just in case you take a hit, or Will-O-Wisp, in case Will-O-Wisp misses and then you have to take a hit. But the plan pretty much is the Will-O-Wisp, take a hit, and then hex them down, which I have 130 base power now. And you have Flamethrower, and whenever they switch in, you Will-O-Wisp, and then you can Pain Split to get some health back. And you just want to take down physical attackers with this. And they won't be able to do much because of Will-O-Wisp. But another way is for Chandelure is, this is a Sun Team Chandelure for the most part. Flash Fire, Life Orb. Flash Fire, I like Flash Fire on this one because in case, like, because you're under the sun, so they might, if you have a Ferrothorn, you have something that's neutral, maybe neutral to fire, and you think they're going to use a fire move and you switch in Chandelure. You're under the sun, your fire moves are boosted by another 50%. That's a lot of damage you're going to be doing with a fire move with Chandelure. That's why I like the Life Orb on this one, and max speed timid because you need as much speed as possible. But what you want to do is Flamethrower, Stab, again, any of the fire moves in this set, but I like Flamethrower, especially with the Sunlight and the Flash Fire. You can get both. There's no real reason. You don't need the extra damage because if you miss, then it's useless at that point. Shadow Ball for Stab, and Solar Beam, like I said, in the sun, Solar Beam is just better than Energy Ball in every way. And in this last move, I like Memento, just in case you get to a position where like the sunlight goes away, or you're about to faint and they switch in again like a Pelipper. They switch in something that brings rain, and there's nothing you can do. Just Memento them, and that pretty much shuts them down. They can't do anything attacking wise, but you KO. But You knock yourself out, but you pretty much hamper your opponent so much that they pretty much have to switch, and you get a free switch in. So you kind of get you can either get a free turn of setup, or they have to fight you at a disadvantage. It goes from there. So you kind of got to watch out for it. You do have to be careful of, I think it's competitive and defiant with these, because they balances out and their attack stays neutral, because defiant and competitive raises attack. I want to say it's competitive is the special version of it, but I know defiant 100%. It raises your attack when your stats is lowered, so it would kind of balance out. So you have to be careful of those Pokemon, because then you'll just faint for no reason at that point. But again, this is a Dynamax Chandelure too. Max speed again, max special attack, and weakness policy. You don't really need the modest nature of your weakness policy. And I like Flash Fire on this one, because for the most part, Infiltrator is, again, this is one of the ones where it's like it really doesn't matter. It's whatever you want. But Flamethrower, Shadow Ball, Flamethrower, I like Flamethrower versus Fire Blast and Overheat, just because it's pretty much the same damage Dynamaxed. But when you're not Dynamax, Flamethrower is better. Shadow Ball. Psychic has the same as Dream Eater, and I really like the Psychic terrain, especially once you undynamax, because it protects you from things like Shadow Sneak from Mimikyu and like Sucker Punch, for example. So I like having that as I like bringing up the Psychic terrain, like maybe in our last turn of Dynamax, if you just KOs anyway, because your special attack's so high. And then Solar Beam again for grass types, for example. And you'll have the plan, like the best way for Dynamax Chandelure to go is you come in, you get hit with a super effective, well, you want to outspeed, so like Flamethrower, you bring the rain, you bring the sun, you get with a super effective hit, you get a +2, and then you KO them with Flamethrower again or whatever, and then, or you just one-shot them. Either way, you just want to you want to end your Dynamax with Drought, with Sunlight, pretty much Sunlight, and Psychic Terrain. That way you're immune to priority like Sucker Punch and Shadow Sneak, and Solar Beam doesn't have a charge because it's sunny, and then you have Flamethrower gets a boost because it's sunny, and then Shadow Ball just is really good coverage. But in the +2, if you had a +2 with 145, that's a lot of damage. You just have to you just can't get outsped. That's the biggest issue with this. If you get outsped, you're in a really bad spot. But some of the other moves Chandelure learns are Confuse Ray. You can do some things with that, but the 1 in 3 chance is not the greatest. Inferno, I want to say burns them. You'd always burn, but 50% accuracy is very high risk, high reward. And Prison's not a terrible move, but you kind of have to know exactly what your opponent has to make any use of that move. I want to say Smog. Doesn't Smog do something? 40%. Okay, yeah, Smog is not good. Memento's good. Overheat's really good if you just want to come in, maybe with a Scarf, for example. Again, if you just come in with a Scarf and you plan of switching out, and you just want to get a monster hit off before you switch out, Overheat's not bad. But let's see some of the other moves. Safeguard, Sunny Day, Imprison, Trick Room. It's kind of fast. It's too fast for a Trick Room in my opinion. Substitute, you can do some things with that. Endure with a berry, especially like a Like if you do something like is it Salak Berry? Yeah, Salak Berry. Endure. And just max speed, max attack, modest. You can get away with that because then you'll pretty much outspeed everything. You can run Jolly if you really want to outspeed, or Timid if you really want to outspeed everything, but you'll outspeed a lot with this and just have 3 offensive moves. Like, I would honestly run Flamethrower, Shadow Ball, and Energy Ball at that point, and you just pretty much, it's like this set. It's pretty much this set, but you're not locked into a move. So it's up to you, but you kind of have to, you're in a bad spot with priority with this one. That's the only problem. Like, you're not locked into a move, but priority becomes a problem. So you can do some things with Salak Berry. Shout out to Endure being a move that's really good. Taunt. Calm Mind's really good to set up your stats, especially if you want to be, especially if you do Calm Mind Pain Split. As long as you don't get taunted, that's really good. Fire Spins, whatever. I'm gonna do it that way. A weird way. Mystical Fire lowers their special attack, which is actually pretty good. Maybe more so in doubles. I think it only hits one opponent though. Yeah, Mystical Fire isn't Mystical Fire isn't bad, but for what you're trying to do, it's not the greatest because it lowers their special attack. But cool, unless you're planning on Mystical Fire and then using a Flamethrower next turn and really KO. Dark Pulse isn't bad, but when you're Ghost, Shadow Ball and Dark Pulse pretty much have the same coverage, and Shadow Ball gets stabbed, so it's better. Solar Beam. I would never really run Hyper Beam or Giga Impact. You could also do something too really weird. Haze is good too if you don't want to run Clear Smog and you're not setting up. Haze is a pretty good switch-in option just to shut down an opponent. Power Splits, whatever. Clear Smog. You could Acid Armor Calm Mind, but you get into a really bad spot because you can't heal. Like in doubles, maybe Acid Armor, Calm Mind, and then Heat Wave, Shadow Ball probably, and just have an opponent next to you with either, or have an ally next to you with either Heal Pulse or Life Dew, and go from there and just be really tanky. But the problem is if you get blown up too fast, it has ways that can fail. Burning Jealousy is also really, really good on Chandelure, especially if you're running Hex, because in doubles, Burning Jealousy is really good because if you can predict that someone's setting up, or even in singles, if you can predict they're gonna set up, Burning Jealousy is a free burn with damage. Where's Burning Jealousy? It's free. It's a free burn with doing damage, and then you run Hex with it. So you can. It's really good if you can get that combo off, but it fully relies on your opponent setting up. So if they're not setting up, it's kind of a problem. That should work on Dynamax though. If you expect to take a Dynamax move, maybe in doubles, that would actually be really good in doubles. Now that I think about it, that'd be really good in doubles, especially on a Dynamax if they use something like the Steel one, the Ghost one, for example, and you hit them with a Burning Jealousy, you just burned both opponents. So that's really good in that case. But at the same time, you'd have to have your ally. Would be really good though with this is having like a Clefable or something next to you, or a Clefairy, and have them use Follow Me, and then they get hit with the Ghost move, the Ghost Dynamax move, and then you Burning Jealousy, because you pretty much burn, because you would have to get hit with a move. Your opponent would have to use a move that raises their stats, so it's only a couple moves that do that. Well, there's 5, it has to be. So you kind of have to play around that, and Ghost would be the one that Chandelure is most likely to have used while it's on the field. So then you Follow Me or something, and they're forced to take it, and you just burn both allies for free. So against like a Mimikyu or something, that's really, really good. But anyways, that's how to use Chandelure in Pokemon Sword and Shield.